What's going on? I am Nando.
And I'm DJ.
And this is Mostly Nitpicking, a podcast where every week we pick apart a piece of pop culture by looking exclusively at the details.
Woohoo!
Woo! This week, we've got the end of our Dance to the Joker series, kind of. We're talking about a show that doesn't have the Joker in it, or really any villains whatsoever, except for the heroes and stuff. But it's about superheroes in our modern times.
Yeah, and it's an interesting take, and it's great.
Yeah, it's awesome. And this is pre-Joker, so I mean, I have seen it. DJ has not seen it, so we're not going to talk about Joker at all.
Oh, yeah.
Spoiler capacity or anything like that, but obviously next week. But yeah, this week we're talking about The Boys. I don't know what to call it. Amazon's The Boys, or The Boys, the show, but it's an Amazon original, so cool.
Is it the first, actually I literally answered my own question. I was like, is it the big first, but there's Amazon thing? But no, because there's Miss Maisel and Jack Ryan and what are some of those other super
They do
popular...
Man in High Castle, that was them, I think.
Yeah.
They did The Tick, which is pretty much this, but cursing. Amazon's done a handful of stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, and they made the movie where Casey Affleck's all sad.
Yeah. So I'm just an idiot. I don't know things.
I mean, this is the first thing of theirs that's like a big budget thing. Although, the big budgetiness of it, I feel like this could kind of be a movie. It's almost movie quality, but I'd say it's not quite there.
Right.
You know what I mean? Some of the effects, you're like, okay, this is a TV show. Not to say that it's bad, but if I saw it in a movie theater, I'd be like, this doesn't seem quite right.
Yeah, I'd put it on the same plane as, the CW shows. So, The Flash, Green Arrow, I'd put it there. Maybe the same as, the Netflix shows, which makes sense. I feel like the TV superhero shows always feel different, but they do, a lot of stuff, real well, I think.
Yeah.
Just in terms of that, the race between A-Train and the other guy whose name I can't remember, that was pretty good.
Shockwave.
What a weird name for a speedster. Although I think of Shockwave as, but I think of a Shockwave as, an earthquake guy. Or a sound guy. Yeah,
I would say sound would be what I would think. I could see Earthquake, but yeah, I know what you mean. I don't think it's as good of a name as A-Train. I think A-Train's a terrific name.
Oh, A-Train's a great name.
All of the names in the show, I think, are awesome. I'm trying to think of if there's one that has a name I don't love.
Who's the Wonder Woman analogy?
Queen Maeve.
Not analogy, but Queen Maeve. I don't love the name Queen Maeve.
Yeah, she's fine. I like her character. The look of her is weird. You know what's weird? So this is also a comic book, obviously, by Grant Morrison, right? Who wrote this?
I don't know.
Garth Ennis. I was the G guy's confused. Who you can kind of compare some of the things, although it's very different from the comic book. Not necessarily in terms of tone, but in terms of what the characters do and what point the show is trying to make. Where this show is very much about corporations and I don't even know what you'd call it, political power.
It's about corporations, but it's also capital. It's taking the idea of superheroes to capitalism and what that means, because superheroes are rarely thought of as a commodity. So it's the play of the corporations, but also what happens when superheroes are no longer just if you think about it, how does the Justice League manage a space tower off of seemingly no budget?
Yeah.
That's a good question, right? How does the infrastructure of superheroism work? I think it's actually a fascinating question that this show answers. I don't know if it answers it well. It answers it very cynically, and in a real shitty way.
In a way that feels real. It feels like this wouldn't necessarily be what happened, but if this happened, you'd be like, yeah, it sounds about right. Corporation, is in charge, and they kind of run everything, and the superheroes are in, commercials for stuff. They do races to, for fun. I think the most interesting thing about this, now that I thought about it, because I didn't really have that thought before, is there's no Joker in this universe,
That's true. There are no supervillains. There's the Boys, but they're not supervillains.
Right, yeah, they just fight. Like, the boys are, and for people that haven't seen the show, it's the conceit of it is kind of like what we're describing. It's a world a lot like The Tick, or like one of those shows where the world is built out and there is a bureaucracy and like an infrastructure that integrates, superheroes into the real world, and it's the show's not about. I mean, it kind of follows one hero joining the world, but like this world already exists.
Yeah.
And one of the characters, the main character, Huey, joins some sort of like covert military or CIA adjacent hit squad of guys that kind of deals with the superheroes when they get out of control.
Yeah, I think one of the things, too, is with the boys that's interesting is that if there was a Joker, like specifically a Joker, to pop up, like, I'm not talking about like a huge superhero, like a huge like a metahuman, like a huge super metahuman,
right?
Because
like
that happens
General
at the end of the show, right?
Or something.
Yeah. If like the Joker were to pop up, like that person would be squashed immediately. Like, Homelander would break into their house and just murder them. Right, like the boys are different because like they're covert, right, and they're smart about like how they do different things. But like if the Joker was just like, I've hit a bomb down in Times Square, just that person like they wouldn't even like make it. They would just die. They would die. So.
And they'd also probably be the good guys to some extent. Like you'd be like, oh man, it sucks that he tried to kill those people, but he was really trying to expose corruption. Like they'd be like Rorschachs to some extent.
Yeah.
In this universe, there are like bank robbers and like, terrorists and stuff, and that's what the supers deal with. But even that, like, the terrorists that aren't really a thing they usually deal with, it does seem like mostly bank robbers. But we'll get into it, because we don't want to, like, spoil it. But there are, like, little details of it that are things that unfold over the course of this year. I mean, it's pretty clear from minute one that the supers are not great, and there's something, going on with them.
Yeah.
And it's the comic it's based on is not as, I don't think, not as intelligent, but it's not as much of this feels like prestige television in that, like, the comic is very, like, shocking, and, like, there's things that they do in the show that are takes on that, but it goes in a very different direction from the comic, which makes it, I think, way more interesting. Although the comic is fun. It's got its moments. But yeah, it's super different. So yeah, we'll talk about it in kind of broad strokes, almost like review it, and then go into like nitpicks, specifics, and spoilers, because there's plenty.
I think I just spoiled part of it, but whatever. I said what happens at the end of the show. That feels kind of spoilery. Yeah.
Did you? I don't think you did.
Okay.
I
whatever. If I did,
we'll edit this out maybe or not. I'll we'll talk off air, but yeah, I mean, it's very, so how familiar with this series or these characters were you before you saw
0%.
the show or heard about the show?
God, did you tell me to watch it? Yeah, someone
Probably.
was like, oh, you know what it was? It was coming up all over Twitter. People were asking us specifically, like, review the boys. You gotta review the boys. You and Nando have to do the boys. And I was like, all right, there's something here. So I think I was home or whatever, it was a weekend or something, and I just put on the first episode and I was fucking hooked. I knew nothing about this show. I feel like I even got to the party late because it came out in late July and I didn't watch it till late August. It might have been Labor Day. Labor Day might have been the day I watched it, but yeah, I knew nothing about this. How about you?
Oh, I had read the books, some of them, first two, like, volumes of it. And I remember, like, back when I was working at, like, my first job out of college, there was a guy who was like, you got to read The Boys. And I was like, I don't know what that is. And he explained it to me, and I was like, oh, that sounds fun. Then I kind of forgot about it. And then I heard they were making it then as a TV show, and I heard some of the cast, enough of it that I was like, oh, this is going to be something big. Like, they're putting money into this. So then I went in and actually bought and read the books. So I was pretty familiar with the characters, but like I was saying, the plot, there's some big plot, like things that happen and like broad strokes that are in the show. But if you read the books, you'd probably only kind of recognize characters, like who people are, but it's different enough that I was still pretty surprised even having read everything.
Oh, that's good.
Which was nice, because it's not a shallow book, but it's not very deep at all. It's very much like, here's some superheroes. They do lots of drugs and sex together. Let's go kill them. Like, and then the heroes are all idiots. Like, the supers are all idiots. The boys are fine, but they're all, like, there's like, I don't know. There's a lot of not like sight gags, but like it's very crude and, like it looks dirty, and there's things that happen in the books, which we'll cover, that you can see specific scenes that are like, oh, they did this differently in the show in this way, and that's a pretty good way to describe what's different about it, or like kind of what's better about it. Because I think the show is way better than
way
the books.
Better.
And I think if you I would recommend people that like the show read the book, maybe like the first one, kind of see what you'd think. Because it's just very different. The way that the show introduces characters, and just the structure of the show, I think is better. I think the characters are way better written in the show, almost all of them. Obviously, like Homelander is the big one, who's like really terrific in the show, and in the books he's not that great. There's just a lot of that. There's a lot of like, I mean, there's some things that are good, like things that are like, yeah, that's like a good change and that's worth it. But there's a lot of other ones where you're like, or not, I'm sorry, the opposite. There's some things where you would go back and read the book and go like, oh, that looks like fun. There's a lot of other stuff where you're like, oh, wow, thank God they took this out and replaced it with this, because that would have been boring.
Interesting.
In comparison. But yeah, it's so it follows two characters, the show. It follows Huey and what's her name? Starlight? Annie?
Is it Annie?
I think it's her real name. Okay. I do. And Annie Leibovitz. That's her. No. I'm not sure who that is in real life. That's like a person like famous.
Oh, man. It's Annie. It's
anyway, it's her name's Annie. It's Annie something. Like it ends with an A. Or it starts with an A. Because she's a superhero. So your name, your first and last name have the same letter. Annie Leibovitz is a famous photographer.
Annie January. That's weird.
Oh, that's what it is. Yep. I was wrong. But yeah, so it follows these two characters as they both enter opposite sides of this weird superhero world. And on one side, you kind of find out how terrible they are. Well, I guess you find out how terrible they are both, from both ends. But then the characters, know each other and start interacting. I don't know. It's a really fun book, or show. Let's see. What else would you compare it to?
Man, it feels so, not to totally cop out on your question, but it feels so off the wall from like other superhero stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. It's not necessarily like Deadpool, because it's not like, it almost feels like an old 80s action movie kind of thing. Like, so the main character, Huey, teams up with the boys, this hit squad, and it is led by a character played by Carl Urban from Thor Ragnarok and Dredd and all that stuff, named Billy Butcher, who I'd say kind of feels like almost like a Bruce Willis, like kind of hard-nosed, curses and drinks and not hates everything, but like very cynical, tough guy. So there's the way the boys interact or like exist in this world, what you feel like is kind of like that. And then there's the supers, which all like, they do feel like the Tick kind of, I'd say it's like the Tick, but it's almost closer to like One Punch Man.
Oh, that's a good one.
Where, yeah, besides this bureaucracy, they're also, the heroes themselves are kind of shitty.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And yeah, I'd say that's probably the thing that I compare to the most. It's not about like existential, or like uselessness, and it doesn't have the same themes that One Punch Man is dealing with, but otherwise just the like, there's heroes and they're regulated by this government agency and they have like different rankings, and yeah, I'd say that's there. But it's very, it feels like one of those shows, it's very like irreverent, but it partially it feels like it's so close to trying too hard for me, in terms of like, it's going to be very extra bloody and characters are going to say, they're going to,
it feels like an aesthetic choice, honestly. I don't know. That's just how I kind of read it. Like, it doesn't feel forced in my opinion.
No, definitely not. And I think it's definitely pulled back kind of like it's much less like, I don't like, it's not irreverent. It's much less crude and kind of shock value-y than the books, which kind of makes me think maybe it's whoever adapted this was like, you know what, I'm gonna do what I have to do in terms of like, you know, this person has to have like a sex addiction or whatever, but I'm gonna really try to take it in a different direction so that it's not just it's not only that.
That's fair. Like the character,
yeah, it's a really weird adaptation. Because it's better. It's just objectively better than the thing that it's adapting from.
That's like the very interesting thing about it. And again, I haven't read it in any way whatsoever, but like the fact that you're saying it's so much better, I find that exceedingly interesting.
It really is. And it's different, so I'm sure there's people that prefer the original version, but having read both, or like having experienced both, I just feel like this is so... and especially as like a season of television, I think it's super tight.
Yeah. It's a great 8 hours. It's so good.
Yeah, really well paced. The mystery and kind of like the plot unravels at a really good like pace. I would say maybe near the end it does kind of go like, all right, so we got to wrap this up. But it obviously leaves stuff on the hook, and there's a second season that's being made as we speak. So
I think they will be really good. They do a really good job of like playing with the suspense and kind of taking it in twists and turns that you might not otherwise expect. They're also really good at like really big surprising moments kind of just happening like out of nowhere. You know, like there might be a build up and the character does something totally unexpected and it's like, whoa. And it's pretty good. There are some like really campy moments too, which I don't know whether to praise or to admonish. I just find them interesting. Like there's parts where it's like, oh, this just got kind of goofy. And I guess it is a show about.
Oh, I know it. I know which moments you're talking about. They all kind of, not they all, but a lot of them revolve around one specific character.
Yeah.
Yeah. The plot line around that character is so strange how it develops over this season. I'm interested to see exactly why they did that. Because I found that, I was pretty surprised by that, but just every so often as the end of the show was happening and like the last couple episodes, we had to check back on this one guy and you'd be like, all right, I guess that's what he's up to. Okay. Hope everything works out.
So besides that,
but yeah, it does have that campiness.
So yeah, I loved it.
And it's very
don't show your
R-rated
kids.
And, you know, it's got a lot of
keep the kids at home.
No, don't.
Or I guess
take them to Joker instead.
Put the kids in the kids room or whatever.
Put the kids in the movie theater. Take them to see a Frozen or whatever the kids like. Addams Family, Gemini Man.
They love Will Smith.
Make them watch it 3 or 4 times, and then by the time you're done with that, the boys will be... Because it's probably like a 2-hour movie, my guess.
I hope it's only 2 hours.
It's funny, there aren't... Yeah. There aren't too many famous people in this show, either. Besides, obviously, Carl Urban and a small appearance by Shaun of the Dead. What's that guy's name?
Oh my God, they're killing us! They're killing us!
Nick Frost,
Simon Pegg. Oh my God,
Simon Pegg.
I was dying there for a second. Do you know the story? I don't know, like if this is confirmed, but I watched the Red Letter Media did a thing on The Boys. It was like very short, and it was just kind of their thoughts and recapping it. But do you know what apparently why Simon Pegg was put in that role?
Yeah, it's very... I want to say he wrote, like, the foreword for the first volume of The Boys after the fact, because he's... Well, for the reason you're about to describe.
Because, like, he was... Like, not like... Was Huey based off of him? Was that, like, the... yeah, okay.
Yeah. The look of Huey is... In the original comic, the look of Huey was modeled after Simon Pegg, which is so funny because everybody... Like... Homelander, you know, in the comics is like a giant muscle man, like a Superman. And like in this, he's definitely muscular, but he's not that ridiculous. So everyone's kind of pared down to a more realistic, you know, proportions. But besides that, everyone looks pretty similar to what they look like in the comic, except Huey, who looks completely different. And it's just because in the comic, he looks like Simon Pegg and they couldn't get Simon Pegg. So they were like, we'll make him a different guy. Just like... Because if you go back and, I mean, like guys like Billy Butcher is also a giant person who wouldn't really work in real life. And I don't remember him having a beard, but like everybody else, especially like Frenchie and MM and the female, which is what they call her in the comics. They look pretty similar, to the point where you could see a poster with all of them standing next to each other, and you'd be able to pick everybody out except Huey, and you'd be like, I guess this is Huey, because he's the one that isn't picked yet. And he doesn't really have a specific outfit either, because he's just a normal guy. Whereas kind of Billy Butcher always wears a big black trench coat, and like, because he looks like he's in the Matrix. And the Frenchie has the glasses over his forehead all the time. There's really no equivalent of that with Huey. So it's even harder to pick him out of a crowd.
So Simon Pegg got to be the dad. Basically, long story short.
And the supers are more or less the same as well, except A-Train is white. A-Train looks pretty different. So. And translucent doesn't
that's
exist.
interesting.
There is no translucent in the books. Yeah, he's a character named John from Jupiter. He's their Martian Manhunter. They did have a lamplighter who got replaced. So like everything about the Seven is more or less the same. Obviously, like the plot things that happen later, but just like the makeup of it is the same, except translucent is John from Jupiter. And A-Train is white.
How about that?
Which is fine. Like, he's the only character. That actor is the only boy that I think you would recognize. Maybe he was like in the Shaft movie.
Oh, is that who that was?
As like mini Shaft. Yeah, I don't know his name, but he's, and I didn't recognize it at the time, but having looked back, you kind of go through everybody's IMDb page, and he's the only one where I'm like, oh yeah, I guess I did see him in that. Although, to be fair, one of them is, the character called The Deep is from Gossip Girl, and Emily knew who that was, and we met them at Comic-Con, last year, and, he was pretty excited to be recognized by someone for Gossip Girl, kind of, because just nobody at Comic-Con knows Gossip Girl. And if, finally someone was like, oh yeah, it's you. You're the most famous one in this group.
I feel like that's fun as hell.
Dredd or whatever.
This is my opinion.
Yeah, no, I mean, and he's a good sport. They were all very nice. Frenchie wasn't there. And all of the rest of the heroes, some of them don't, like, exist.
Yeah.
Like there wasn't, Black Noir wasn't there. It was like Starlight, Deep and Homelander. So I guess Maeve and Translucent weren't there. But I wish I knew how great Homelander was going to be. Because I feel like I was kind of rushing to get to some of these other guys, but I was like, oh man, yeah, I really wish I'd.
Is he the best part of the show?
He was my favorite.
Yeah.
Yes, but I would say it's got to be, right? Who else is? I mean, there's other parts of it that are like. There's the 5th episode in the series, you go to a place, and I think that is awesome. And the way that whole thing is built is very fun. So it's like parts of that, like the universe and the just like the setting is I'd say the second best thing. I guess it's a really well made show in terms of just like they did a lot of world building and small things. Like every time you're in a public place, there's some poster for some hero in the background, because just of course they would be everywhere, like movie posters in the subway. It's just packaged with them because you can't not see it. So I think things like that are really great. But yeah, I would say Homelander's
he has this menace to him that is indescribable, just how great it is. Yeah, like anytime he's in the room, you're like, oh, fuck, is everyone in this room going to fucking die? Like, it's so good.
He's great. And he's played by an actor named Anthony Starr, I think, who I also don't know from things, but he's been around for a little while. It's funny. I would also say another thing that I love about it is the some of the costumes are pretty great. Specifically, they have Homelander in one of those Shazam kind of like muscle suits. And I love that. I think it's so funny looking, but also just like it kind of works.
It's pretty solid.
Obviously, he doesn't look like he's really that strong, but also it's like I get what they're going for. He looks bigger than the rest of these people.
He's the Superman.
Yeah. So okay, let's go over the 7 without getting into too many specifics, because I'd say the 7 as a group are the most interesting part of the show. But I think it's balanced well, and I like the boys. I think the boys are fun to watch and stuff. But so you have Homelander, who's your Superman, Captain America analog, leads the 7. The 7 is the Justice League of this universe. You have Black Noir. Is
Batman he like a Batman universe. Or is he more of a Black Panther? I couldn't figure out what they were going for.
I think in the way he's kind of built up in the comics, I think he's more of a Batman. Just because he's serious, he doesn't have superpowers. He's just kind of like a ninja, kind of. Although he's super different in the books. I would say if there's one big change, and it seems like there's a reason. There's a specific reason why it doesn't seem like they're doing the same thing they do in the books with him. And it's really small, but if you're watching the show, some things happen and you're like, well, I guess that's not what that was before. But just in terms of this show, I would say it's closer to Batman because he's the serious one. He's the strong, silent one. Like, he doesn't, he's just kind of there. But I think it was pretty funny. My least favorite costume. I did not like his costume.
Fair. It's fair.
It was all like padding, and not like padding, but like hockey pads. I kind of wish in the comics he's just in a black spandex suit with no, like, almost like a Green Man from Always Sunny. Like, I think those are called morph suits. Right?
I suppose
that is kind of like what Deadpool wears. Like,
full body
just
suit, just like whoosh.
Suit.
I don't know what that sound effect was. The whoosh.
Yeah. You're putting it on and taking a nice, cool
going to the bathroom is
shot.
Terrible. That's like what that is.
Yeah. So there's him. There's Queen Maeve. She's your Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
She's fine. Her costume it's such a small hang up for me, but her costume has a tiara, like Wonder Woman's does. And in the comics, it's bigger. And in the show, it's very thin and it looks a little weird. I think it would have been cooler looking if it was bigger. Do you know what I mean? It just looked like a little headband,
Sure. I'm not trying to be dismissive. I just didn't get that vibe.
It's a small thing, but it did kind of bug me. Then you got the Deep, the one from Gossip Girl. He's your Aquaman. He's the cute one of the group. I thought how you describe
do more of
him.
like the dopey one, right?
I'd say, yeah. See, I'd say him and A-Train are very similar in terms of like what function they serve in the group. Whereas A-Train is also kind of like the most of a celebrity. And he's also probably one of the dumber ones. A-Train is your Flash. And there is and then there's Translucent, who is just invisible. That's his whole deal. And then there's a character named Starlight, who is... Now, her I'm having a hard time with, because I've heard people describe her as a bunch of different characters. What would you say her analog is in comics? Oh,
no. Who shoots out, like, sunbeams? Like, that's the only thing I could possibly think of. Like, some...
So there's, like Starfire is kind of like that. She has similar powers. Her like, eyes turn a color when she uses her powers, kind of like Starfire does. She's also kind of like a lot of electricity superheroes, like Static Shock or something.
Yeah,
but like
Jubilee's a good one.
Shoots fireworks, kind of like that. Except she's great. Like Starlight is quite possibly top 2 members of that group in terms of just how they all try to kill each other at the same time.
Yeah, for sure.
She seems pretty good. So I think she kind of has an edge on Jubilee, which is why I feel Starfire. But it's hard to say. I mean, there's Stargirl, which is a character in the Justice Society or in like the Legion of Superheroes from back in the day. And I wouldn't say Stargirl's pretty different. But she takes the place of a character named Lamplighter, who is the Green Lantern, who is the other thing that you're like, she could kind of be that, but I don't think she's really Green Lantern.
And like
either.
The thing with Lamplighter was like, do you in the I forgot what you said what's different between Lamplighter and the comics, but like he's gone from the 7 from the start, and do we know why? I know later it's revealed that he did something like terrible, but like, do we know why he's not involved?
In the comics? Oh yeah, it's pretty. Yeah, I mean in the comics and in the show, he's dead.
Okay. Wait,
right? Lamplighter.
He's dead in the show?
The Green Lantern one? Is
probably.
He dead in the show? I assumed he was dead in the
who
show.
Killed him? Who could kill a member of the 7, Nando?
I don't think
that
so.
seems impossible.
It would be impossible, DJ. I don't even think you could. I'm pretty sure he's alive somewhere because it's impossible to kill any single one of them. And I won't have you slandering the 7 here. I love the idea of him. I'd say of all the parody superheroes and like, they're like parodies. They're kind of like parodies. They're right in analogs and pastiches and all that. But his is the one that I'm like, how would you do a Green Lantern parody? And it's like, oh yeah, you kind of do that. He's got a magic lamp that, because we don't really know too much about his character because he is gone before the story starts. We don't really know what he can do or what his whole deal is at all.
Light shit on fire.
Kind of,
that's my
but
guess
also
from context
like, can he fly?
Yeah.
Like, is the lamp?
Oh, I see what you
magic?
mean. Is it technology?
What is, Yeah.
It doesn't seem like magic exists in this universe. There's no like Zatara or Zatanna.
No, I agree.
So it'd have to be like tech or an alien thing, I guess.
Yeah. I think that's, but yeah, it's completely unclear. It seems like he's retired.
All right,
never mind. For some reason,
that's what I thought.
He was dead.
So my question is, why are you just like fuck this because it's so bad? Like I guess that's possible. Like if you're a member of the Seven, you're like fuck this noise. I don't want to do it anymore. No one can stop me. I guess Homelander could force you to stay on the Seven. You know, whatever.
I think that's what it would be, and I think the reason, it's interesting because this is very different from the comics. I don't know what it's unclear how his retirement went, and I'm not convinced he's not dead.
That's fair too. It's like he died, just like anyway.
Or like it could be like he's retired.
Big quotes or
like anyone seen him in a while? Nope.
We retired him like you get retired in The Good Place. That's the kind of retirement he got.
Exactly. And also, like, he doesn't have, like, one of the things that's interesting, because it is very different from your normal superheroes, right? No villains, really. No secret identities for most of them either. Or at least it doesn't
I mean,
seem
Homelander
like
straight up says, fuck that noise.
Obviously.
I don't need this.
Yeah, and it seems to work the same way. Black Noir definitely doesn't have one. And the rest of them seem to act kind of like, I would assume... Well, yeah, at a certain point, the Deep goes to a grocery store in his Deep outfit with like a hoodie over it or something, right?
I think you're right.
Maybe
You're
not.
right.
I don't, like, none of them, most of them aren't hiding their identity. If anything, they're like just kind of, with the Deep, it's weird, but not necessarily the most famous people on Earth all the time. But yeah, like, I don't think Homelander ever takes off that
doesn't
suit.
seem like it, except to fuck.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's also, like, it's funny because I say he's the character. So, like, obviously he's the Superman version. He's kind of like the most powerful one. But even with him, it's pretty unclear how any of their powers work or what any of them can really do. Because there's one bit specifically when a character suggests something he can do in a superhero situation, and it's something that a Superman could definitely do, and he's like, "How would I do that? That doesn't even make any sense." And you're like, "Oh, so you can't?"
love that shit so much. It's so good. Oh my god, that's not possible, you idiot! Like, oh fuck. This show does seem to kind of hate some typical superhero stuff.
Oh, yeah. Well, the writer whose name I already forgot, either Gareth Ennis or the other one with the G, he is not a big fan of superheroes, which is kind of the fun of this and why something like this gets created, is because this guy just has an insane amount of contempt for the superheroes. So he writes a character who's just a normal guy who goes on a superhero killing spree.
That's about right.
And they more or less are celebrity. Like, they they're celebrities who can kill people whenever they want, but they go on talk shows and they have movies made about them with them in them, I think. They have TV shows about their lives. And, like, that's one thing. Homelander, like, not only does he not have a secret identity, he will tell you where he grew up and stuff. And, like, he'll do that on a show. So, but the main character does have a secret identity. The girl, Annie. So, yeah. It's very interesting, though. Would she have a secret identity? Like, considering what she does to get to be a superhero?
That's a good point.
People would know who she is, right? All right, let's get into spoilers and stuff. Who would you say? So some people have complained, and I think this is fair, that it's not, guys like it more than
that's fair.
Like girls. It's very like, it's not necessarily like sexist or anything like that.
It's not friendly.
It definitely feels like, things don't go great for the
I think it's
women in the show. Things don't go great for most of the guys, but especially the women.
I think it's that Game of Thrones argument, earlier Game of Thrones, where you have women who are like being taken advantage of and have a lot of unfortunate things happen to them, but there's no like good payoff for them or wait where they get like redeemed or something like that. You know what I mean? I think that's like the biggest critique, which I think is fair. Like Starlighter, who probably gets like the like worst like worst end of the stick. Oh god, the worst things that happen to her, more or less. And it's like she gets like a cool moment where she gets to kind of say like fuck all this, but outside of that, the only thing that happens is that the person who like screws her over, like bad things happen to him. So I guess like that could be some solace for people. I don't know.
Well, it's just
it's
say
like Cole's
like,
comfort, right?
It really is like there's a lot of, I mean, not, I don't know, this is spoiling it, but like our main character Huey is like thrust into action because his girlfriend is killed very unceremoniously, and he like gets mad about that. And that one's right out of the comic book. And so like there's a lot of that where like something terrible happens to one of the female characters, just kind of not necessarily just to move the plot forward. I wouldn't say it's like quite like as the worst example of like using it as a plot device, but yeah, I wouldn't say there's a single female character in the show that like starts the show or ends the show better than she started it.
Yeah, that's true. Well, maybe there's one I could think of.
Oh, I guess you're right. There is one.
But only one.
Yeah. But we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
So okay, we've got anything else to say about the show before we start spoiling it and go?
I'm ready.
All right, cool. It's great. Everyone should watch it. Unless you don't want to, then don't. And yeah, it's very. You know what? It's like a lot of cursing. It's also a fair amount of like nudity, which is fine. It's a show like that. That's kind of the point.
If it's your thing, go forth and conquer.
Yeah, but just be prepared for that.
Yeah.
Because it'll be surprising if you're not. All right, DJ. Where do we start here?
Where do we start? At the beginning.
Like,
okay. I just have one. I forgot if we made this point, but it's a quick point. So Huey's girlfriend is like one of our main protagonists. She like dies from like the beginning, right?
Yes.
And it is one of the things that like kind of drills it into you. It's like, oh my god, superheroes if real would be so scary.
Yes.
And I think that's one of the main thrusts of the show. Yeah,
and I think that incident that one's right out of the comics, except, and to kind of talk spoilers now, in the comics, it really is just an accident. Like it's not, there's no ulterior motive or like, plot behind what A-Train is doing at that moment. I want to say it's like in a fight with a super villain or something, but whatever it is, it's just normal course of action. He runs through her and she explodes. So that part of it is interesting in this because I do think The Boys, the comic book, it doesn't do too much work justifying why Huey is on The Boys. And you do kind of sit there going like, why is he part of this group? He's not very good at this. Like he's not, it's not like he's a ex-Marine whose girlfriend is murdered and Billy Butcher's like, oh gosh, this guy's definitely going to join my crew now. He's just some schlubby guy.
Yeah.
But in this, he has access to the Seven, then B, he has the means to like, or he has information about a specific, like he can tell them that A-Train was running some drugs or whatever it is at that point in the story. So it makes it a little bit more important. But
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Okay. What was the thing you thought you spoiled?
Oh, that there are like superheroes at the end. I feel like that's kind of a big deal. Right?
There were superheroes the whole time?
Well, I'm sorry, like super villains, like
like the terrorists?
Yeah.
Well, I thought when you said terrorists, I thought you meant like the guy that takes over the plane.
Oh no, I meant like the guy at the very end,
right?
Who's like, yeah.
I think you're good. I don't think you spoiled it then. I mean, whatever.
I think I know what we should talk about, though.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Isn't it weird how much, like, the use of drugs comes up in this show? It's, like, a huge part of the show.
That's such a part of the comics. So many of the heroes are bad because they just, like... It's you know how they at one point, they go to the sex club and they see... Not like sex club, but they go to, like, the nightclub and they see Ezekiel with the guys.
Yeah.
And that, like, there's the first volume of the show, of the comic book. They just go to one of those where just superheroes are all having orgies and doing drugs and stuff. It's not like in this show where it's treated more like a steroid kind of. They're just like all drug addicts.
They pounding really drugs.
They're the worst celebrities you can even imagine. Like if you're like, what are the Olsen twins at maximum strength? It's this. Like, or like they're almost like rock stars kind of in like that, what you kind of imagine rock stars are like. You know, like Keith Richards and like those guys at peak, like just doing an insane amount of drugs and like having an insane amount of sex. Whereas they're probably not like that every day. But in this, there are supers who are just like, or in the books, that's just all they do.
So is the origin of supers the same in The Boys?
I don't remember. I don't think in the books in the first 2 books it is clear.
That to me is interesting. Because, like, so in this show, and obviously we're in spoilers, they make it super clear that, so there's what's the name of the company? Is it Vought?
Yeah.
Vought. So the company Vought, and they're, like, the company that owns all superheroes. If you want a superhero, you go through them. And one of the things I find interesting is that they make the drug, they make the compound V, and that's what makes you a superhero. But, like, what an interesting place to take that premise, right? Like, in terms of, like, oh yeah, if the supers are it's totally manufactured and some of them are drug addicts and they're all flawed, but like you'd think there'd be like more of a selection process for like how someone's determined to be a super, right? Like it'd be more methodical. Like it seems so random because you're this random girl from Iowa
super villains
like gets to do it.
You figure there'd be tons of them, you know?
Yeah, right.
Because it's not like Annie is being controlled necessarily. Her mom knew she had superpowers, like, and that was part of the deal. But it doesn't seem like Vought was, you know, pulling the strings just to make sure that she would turn into the kind of person they wanted her to be. It just seems like that was kind of a coincidence, which is great for them.
So you're saying that in a more realistic scenario that there would be a shit ton of supervillains because people who get these powers are just like, yeah, fuck it, I got flamethrower powers or I have laser eyes, Cyclops laser eyes. I'm just going to burn this shit to the ground.
They would just do crimes and not be associated with Vought. Like in this,
wouldn't they get stopped?
Well, that's what I'm saying.
By Homelander?
Like, you know, Homelander doesn't... There's no point in the show, except at the very end, where Homelander fights a super. Like, and it's like, my job is to kill a super.
Right.
And I would assume that would be his entire job, unless there would be some, and I don't think this exists in the show, super neutralizing, you know what I mean? Like, Vought can't turn it off. If they could turn it off, maybe then you'd be like, well, I guess that's why they don't need it. Why they don't need to deal with supervillains. But that's what the boys have... In this show, the boys are very much focused on getting Homelander and the Seven. Like, that's their job. In the books, they're that. Like, they go and kill, like, the, you know, the X-Men equivalents. But they're almost always the public figure superheroes. It's very... I'm trying to think if there's a moment where it's like, a supervillain's robbing a bank, boys, go get him. Or a superhuman's robbing a bank, Homelander, go get him. I don't think that happens. Yeah.
I don't think so either.
No, not
definitely
in the show at all.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah.
Fair. I just, again, just the focus on the whole, like, drug part and manufactured part, like, because, like, one part is, like, it comes, like, kind of at the end, but it is such a focus of, like, what's going on, and you learn it in, like, episode 6 or 7, and they tell the CIA, but they can't do anything about it.
Well, okay,
so I feel like we're
let's talk about the Seven themselves and kind of what their through lines are. So you were talking about the weird hero that has weird things is the Deep, I'm assuming, is who you were describing, right?
Yeah, he has super weird things. And then the other thing is Huey has a couple moments where it's like, really? Is that what's going on? Like when he has the fucking assault rifle and he's just like shooting. He's like, I'm sorry. Da, 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 da. Like that's kind of weird. Do you know what I'm talking about? They're like breaking out. It's like one of the like last episodes, but Frenchie, him, and Mother's Milk are breaking out of the like wherever Vought has them held up, and like Huey gets an assault rifle and he's like shooting, and he's like, "I'm sorry," while he's shooting the bad guys. I thought that was weird, but yeah, the Deep with the dolphin is like probably one of the biggest things. It might be the funniest moment for the season for me. I fucking love that. Would you like to explain
that? Because he hates SeaWorld, even though he's SeaWorld, one of SeaWorld's like spokespeople, and he steals the dolphin in a van, and he has to stop short for some reason, and the dolphin flies out of the van.
Yeah, it's like hooked up to this. It's hooked up to this gurney, right? But there's no forward protection. It's only like bottom support. So I guess he's not flopping around in the back of the van. But like I if you've ever like stopped short and had your dog in the car and you're like freaking out because like, oh my god, like your dog kind of slides forward and they're
Right.
like, because they don't know what's going on, and you're like, oh, I'm so sorry. He stopped short and the dolphin flies
In slow
through the
motion.
windshield.
Like it looks
Like,
at him.
I think there's like opera music playing
Yeah.
for some reason, and then a truck runs over the dolphin, and it's so funny. It honestly, no right being that funny, has no right being that funny, but it's a riot for me anyway. For me, it was like the
Why
funniest
do you
shit.
think we kept checking in on him?
Just
to show that his life got worse?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because like I think the weird part is, so he makes Starlight suck his dick pretty early on, and because he's like, I'm the number 2 around here, and she's like, no, and it's that whole Me Too thing. Like that's definitely what's going on. It's very unfortunate. But then like for the rest of the show, this dude just gets dunked on, like wrecked. He gets destroyed. And part of it you're watching and you're like, good, because he was a dick. But then at one point he gets raped and then you're like, oh God, I feel very uncomfortable. How does he get raped, by the way?
Rough.
Yeah, it's a rough scene. He has gills and this woman just like is having sex with him, or maybe just grinding with him, and it's like shoving her fingers in the gills, and he's like, oh, that hurts. No, stop. And she's just like, shut the fuck up,
Some really
freak.
difficult
Like,
sound effects in
oh
there.
God, yeah, it's
Like the way they made that scene just like happen is it's you know, I mean, that's the point. It's supposed to be uncomfortable.
yeah, it's true.
But I'm pretty sure he doesn't get fired in the comics. So I kind of feel like maybe they did all this because they were like, well, we have to do the moment, the inciting moment where Annie realizes this is going to be bad, but we can't let him get away with it.
Yeah.
So we have to just ruin this character's life as like a penance or kind of catharsis for the audience.
Yeah.
Because in the comics, and that's the thing, this is the example I always give for how they're different, besides a million other things. I'd have to go back and look at this, but whatever happens, Annie is talking to, I want to say Homelander, and Homelander makes her do that. And then other supers come in and they also make her do that, kind of like a fraternity initiation, more than like a, I want you to do this right now. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, I got you.
So from the beginning, you're number one, you're like, Homelander is bad, like immediately. And number two, you're like, Homelander's kind of a dumbass.
Yeah.
Like he's dumb enough to do something like this and get caught or like put himself in jeopardy. Whereas TV show Homelander would never do that.
Right,
because it's not A, it's not convenient. Like it doesn't further his interests, and B, it's just like, he's the only one that seems to understand how important his image is.
Because
until it isn't.
He's like the number one company man.
Yes.
He like cares. And the motivations for me were, I don't want to say skewed, but they seem like they're one way. So we didn't even talk about the woman who's like the corporate woman.
Oh, right. Elizabeth Shue.
Yeah.
I forget her name. Mallory. No, not Mallory. That's the woman who's in charge of the boys. What's her name?
I cannot remember what her
Carolyn?
name is, and I'm stalling. Anyway, so while I find that, Homelander and her are like a thing, and it seems like the reason he's being a company man for her, but then he kills her, so I don't know.
Yeah.
Like it.
Well, also he's got like weird mommy issues with her too.
God.
So like their relationship's real strange. Also, her name is Madeline.
Madeline, that's Sitwell. Yeah, they just call her Sitwell.
Yeah. Her whole thing, I couldn't quite figure out what they were going for with her in terms of like, so does she have sex with Homelander?
I think
does
so.
he just sit on her lap?
I don't know. I think they bone.
Is her baby supposed to be Homelander's baby?
I don't think so.
Yeah, me neither.
I don't think he would hate it so much, especially not like with what happens at the end of the show.
I don't know. I think he might hate it as much. I could see him being like, that thing is your new baby. Like, no matter whether it's his baby or not, because he's such an like sociopath and he's just so egotistical. And even kind of more maybe, because he'd be like, this thing's going to be better than me. Although, yeah, at the end of the show, we do learn that he is whatchamacallit. It is a dad anyway.
Yeah.
Did you see that coming?
No, not even a little bit. I thought that was great, but no, I did not see it coming.
Neither did I. Is she the woman that you were talking about as things get better for her?
Yeah, only her, because she starts off the show dead, and then she's not.
Yeah, I would say she definitely, and not just dead, she seems generally kind of happy. And she has a kid, and the kid is going to be Brightburn someday, I assume.
That kid is going to be Brightburn.
I guess the only other character that ends the show better than when we meet her is whatever her name is, the female is what she's called in the books, but Yuriko or something.
Oh yeah, Kimiko. Is it Kimiko?
Kimiko, yes. Except, there's all kinds of, torture right before we meet her. So she also kind of has a terrible, not to say that like all the guys get off scot-free either. But they frequently are doing the terrible things. And like A-Train has like a heart attack, but he also kills Popclaw via heroin overdose and stuff. So yeah, they definitely get off a little easier. What did you think of? So the specifically shocking moment, was that the Popclaw death? Not the death, but when she kills the guy.
Yeah, that's nuts.
That's wild.
That the gore of this movie, man.
Yeah,
and like how they get someplace. So she's like, just having relations with this dude, and she's sitting on his face, and basically she crushes him. Yeah. Like, goddamn,
that's wild.
What a fucking way to go out.
And
the show.
It's all captured on video cameras. Someone pointed out in a nitpick how wild it is that the camera, when they have to like find when she has to be exposed to A-Train, right? The camera just automatically kind of goes to that moment.
Yeah.
Almost, it's like, all right, we know you got places to be A-Train. She did this. She good?
Oh man. Do you think that the boys were like too good, or do you think they struck a good balance between like, here's what the boys are capable of and here's ba 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 ba, or do you think it was just too like they're how are they doing this to superheroes?
You mean you're saying too powerful?
Yeah, sorry, that's what I was going.
Not really, just because in the show in the comics, they do something that I kind of expected to happen at the very end.
Okay.
And they don't do it. So I think they're like saving it for the future, but they are way more like they're pretty good. And it's tough in the show versus the comics, because in the comics, the supers are all idiots. And it's pretty easy to kill them. Most of them aren't bulletproof. You could probably just walk up to them and shoot most of them. The ones that are, like when they kill Translucent, they like put a bomb up his butt. But it also seems like you could poison him. You could do any number of things to kill him. It doesn't seem that hard.
Right,
like,
okay.
But so, like he needs to breathe air. There's a million ways you can kill him. But, so no, I guess I didn't see him and it's tough because those characters are doing this thing, like trying to kill supers that no one's tried to do before.
Yeah.
I guess like in universe characters have, but they're kind of like, it's not like the supers really have any protection. They don't seem to have a system for keeping in touch just in case one of them gets kidnapped.
Someone's
able to be kidnapped for a while. No one knows.
Yeah, someone could go on a bender and it's like, what?
Yeah.
Yes, they're gone.
Homelander,
well, they do have tracking chips. They do have that.
But Homelander has to like convince a character, like, I think he might have been kidnapped. Something might be up, right? And they're all like, nah, he's probably fine. He's got bulletproof skin. What's the worst that could happen? Anything? There's so many things. Fall to the bottom of the ocean? Oh yeah, that's right. You can kill him a million ways. I do think, like, it's funny how that scene where they're trying to kill Translucent, they just shoot him a lot. Did you, when that scene started, because that, like I said, Translucent's not in the comics. So the show treats that as like a big reveal when they're like, oh, we could put something in his body and then it's fine. As long as you're inside of it, his shell doesn't work. I think that was pretty obvious. I think if anything, the boys are kind of dumb.
Ooh, hot take. The boys are dumb.
Yeah, they're just able to get over on superheroes because the superheroes are also pretty dumb. Like, I think they're good at extorting people. They're great at that. But when it comes to actually killing supers, it doesn't seem like it's that much work. I think most people could do it if you tried.
Okay.
You know, Translucent shows up, you kidnap him, make him eat a bunch of pennies, he dies. Whatever. You don't need to get that. You don't need a hand grenade. There's plenty of ways people die, even if they're bulletproof. Most people don't get shot and they die. You know, most people die from other things, so
yeah.
It'll probably be fine.
Oh, speaking of that, so someone had this nitpick I thought was pretty good. So,
really good. Yes, I know what you're talking about.
At one point, Carl Butcher shoots Starlight just like right in the chest with a fucking high power machine gun or something. Two things. He does this in like Central Park in the middle of the day. I don't know how. Like, holy shit. It's just like boom. And then the other thing is Starlight takes the bullet and then is like fine later. We have no evidence that she's bulletproof. I don't know the rules of a lot of the supers. I'm like, oh, are they all bulletproof?
I don't think so, because they have to make such a big deal out of that Translucent is bulletproof. You know, like they're like, don't worry, translucent, when he has his skin, his powers come from his skin, so he's going to be bulletproof. Kind of saying, like, the rest of them don't have that power, so they're not bulletproof. Like, I mean, Homelander and Maeve are, but I don't think you could assume that Black Noir and the Deep are bulletproof. Maybe the Deep would be, because he's Aquaman. But still, yeah, I thought that was strange. I was super strange.
Yeah, someone pointed that out. I'm like, oh, yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it was Brian...
yeah, sorry,
Brian
I didn't give
Harkins.
credit.
No, it's cool. I got it open.
Thank you.
It's weird too because when that scene happened, he shoots her. So in that scene, to set it up a little bit, we're getting really close to the end. All the characters have all the information. Like, they don't all have all of it, but the information's all out there. Like, we know everything except for the thing about Billy's wife and kid. But Huey goes to tell Starlight what's up in the middle of a park, and then Billy walks up, or then she is shot off screen. We see Billy with this gigantic rifle, and he's just like, we gotta go, Billy, or we gotta go, Huey, and Huey's like, sorry, and then he leaves. But yeah, she doesn't take the bullet and, like, you know, get phased. She drops. Like, she is dead. Man. And I kind of thought in that moment, like, oh, this is the one that's a body double or something. This isn't her at all. But no, it's her. She's fine.
And just like, yeah, right, she's fine. No problem.
So, speaking of her, I don't think she would have a secret identity, right? She's a pageant queen. Wouldn't her mom? People would know who she is.
Yeah, I guess so.
Whoops. I don't quite understand that, because... Sorry. The show does make a big deal out of she busts up a fight in plain clothes, and she's kind of like, oh no, my secret identity. And besides, like, there's a little bit of that lampshade of, like, kind of like, oh man, how did I not notice you were Starlight? You're clearly Starlight. Like, you look exactly like her, and she's on the news 24/7, I would assume, because she's on the 7 as of today. But, yeah, there's part of me that's like, well, who cares? If she's like, if people want to figure out what her identity is, I'm sure they would. There's no way you could keep that secret.
Google's a thing.
Yeah, like that. So that's strange to me, because none of the rest of them we see don't seem to have secret identities. The Deep's the only one that we see having home life, and he doesn't.
Yeah.
When Maeve goes to that girl's apartment, she's Maeve, right? She's dressed like Wonder Woman.
Yeah, because she dated Maeve.
Yeah.
That girl dated Maeve, so yeah.
What'd you think about the reveal that Wonder Woman like analog is lesbian, or at least bisexual to some extent?
I thought that was interesting. I also thought, like, because she's a terrible person, like they all are, and she's just like an alcoholic. That's her big thing, I think, is that she's like a mess and an alcoholic. I think she's like just like done so many things. She needs to mask the pain. I think she even's like, goes to Starlight. There's already one female alcoholic on this team. There's not room for two, which is like something she says to encourage Starlight, but comes off really weird. Yeah. So, I found it interesting that, like, when she was a mess, she went back to her ex-girlfriend's place. So I found that interesting.
But then, like, that's treated like a big surprise. I'm thinking, like, specifically the lesbian reveal, because she's being interviewed, or not interviewed, I guess. She's on a show, and she gets caught on a hot mic talking to this girl. Queen Maeve is, and the people around her are like, whoa, get this on footage. Almost like the world wouldn't know that, but, like... Then does she have a secret identity? Because I don't think you could secretly date someone if you're Wonder Woman. I think people would see. That's the other thing. I kind of wish we saw more of this supers just in the world, walking around. Because you see, the only other one you see with the home life is, I forget his name, the one that's like Haley Joel Osment. And he's just pretty much at a Comic-Con. But, like, are they treated like celebrities? Do they take selfies with people? And, like... Does Homelander leave the building at all? Does he just stay there all the time and then go to... It
seems like he lives there.
Yeah, it does. It seems like that too. And the Justice League, I can never quite figure this out, because some of them do seem to live in the Watchtower and stuff. And then some of them have secret identities. Kind of the same way, like, a lot of... Like, with the Avengers, I'm like, does Black Widow have a house? Or does she just live there? Because...
Right?
What would she even do with one? I think she just lives in Tony's mansion, or like in the Stark Tower, or in the Helicarrier, wherever you can live at any point, depending on what's destroyed. But
probably works for her.
Yeah,
free rent. Woo!
I'd say most of the 7, I would guess live in. Well, yeah, I would guess Black Noir lives there. I would say, yeah, all of them probably do, except for Annie.
Yeah.
What did you think of? So I'd say there's 2, maybe 3 big moments in the show that are pretty great. We should probably go over, just cover. So there's the bit where Billy uses a baby as a gun. That's pretty cool.
Oh, that's so good. That was the Cyclops baby.
Yeah.
That was super cool.
It is interesting that they have some sort of filter on the glass that can block the baby.
I guess, yeah.
There seems to be some sort of like kryptonite something. So if you had to kill Homelander, maybe you could, just make a suit out of that glass.
And it's a good point. I didn't even think about that. But if you know that they come from like chemistry and science, and like it's like Jackie Chan Adventures, magic must defeat magic. I assume that like science must defeat science.
Right.
Like I assume that's a thing.
Or you just put a bunch of pennies, make him eat the pennies, and he'll die. As we all know, you just feed him all pennies.
Why are you stuck on this, like, force him to eat pennies thing?
I don't know. It's just a great idea. Ty would have killed Translucent for sure. And like, go to the bank and get me 50 pennies. That's all we're going to need.
Suffocation's definitely the right one, or drown him, or, like, there's a ton of other ones.
Yeah, you would definitely suffocate him with all the pennies.
Oh, I see. Oh, that makes sense, actually. All right.
I mean, it would poison him, too, and they're very dirty because they're changed.
A lot of zinc or something? I don't know.
Both, I think. Yeah, it's zinc and... I think it's mostly... They used to be copper, but now they're zinc coated in copper. Okay, so there's the bit with the baby. So, yeah, I'm thinking, like, you could definitely... Not like you could kill Homelander, but there's ways to get him to not kill you. And I'm surprised that Elizabeth Shue didn't have any of those on hand, just in case he rebelled. There was no, like, Tower of Babel scenario.
Well, that's why she was so scared of him.
Yeah. She needed to get herself one of those baby shields.
Oh, my God. Yeah, it's got to be fucking terrifying. You just got this, like, god running around being like, I'm the greatest. And it's like, oh.
Yeah.
We can't stop him, guys.
So then I loved the episode that's at the church conference thing, the Believe Expo.
That's so good.
That felt so real.
It's a killer episode. Yeah.
Because, like, I do feel like if we had superheroes in America, a fair amount of them would probably be Christian, and a fair amount of them would probably think that their power comes straight from God, and then they would take that to the logical next step, which is just they would become ministers, like super ministers. And
and all that guy was Mr. Fantastic. He made his arms stretch, like, so long. Like, yes!
I do feel like kind of some of it feels like same way with, like, there were some bits that felt a little bit like kind of cliches. And I do think this whole, like, he's an evangelical preacher, but also he has sex with men secretly on the side. It's like, all right, I guess if that's what you want to do, show. But I'm pretty sure I've seen that in, I guess, real life, but also just it's a thing that you're not breaking much new ground there. But
yeah, it's like, okay, yeah, good for you, show.
Yeah,
I'm with you there.
It felt very like it didn't necessarily feel like hacky or anything, but that feels like a real holdover from the comics. Just this idea of like the characters that aren't supposed to have sex are the ones that are having sex, and all the kind of, if you're a preacher, well, obviously it's going to be behaving in this way because this is the boys.
Do you think it comes off like too preachy that way? Like it's like, oh, we're sending a message. Ha 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 ha.
I guess I would have liked him being just I'm adjusting, just an opportunistic like guy, or legitimately think he was like you know what I mean? Just like, I think it would be much worse if he was an actual priest who was just had superpowers. That would make him a more interesting, kind of dangerous character versus this guy that you can kind of just blackmail.
And really without even evidence. Yeah. He blackmailed him just because he said so. And the guy was like, oh, fuck, I guess you're right.
And it really does feel like, when he did that, I was like, oh boy, this seems like a big gamble, Huey. Like, there's probably a good chance he knows who those people were that he was with the other day. Like, seems like if you were in his position, you'd get their names, make him sign some NDAs or something. Right. You would know at least who they are. So when someone goes in and is like, I was one of them, you just say, no, you weren't. I don't know. A, that's not something I do. But B, if it was, you weren't there, I'm pretty sure.
So, ha ha ha.
Yeah, because they extort and blackmail Popclaw, him, Haley Joel Osment's Kai, and I think that's it. And then kind of A-Train. But like
let's be honest though. As a go-to, not bad.
Oh, it's super good. Yeah. And so they're in the government, right? Not really, but like kind of.
I would call them like contract killers, as bad as that sounds.
So like the idea, if we had if there were really superheroes, the government would know who all of them are. Right, via the Patriot Act and stuff. I feel like they
I mean,
like we wouldn't know, but you'd be able to find that information somewhere.
Unless, I don't know, unless Vought, somehow kept it under wraps, somehow using bullshit corporation magic, because I feel like this show also had bullshit corporation magic, which, was fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, but, whatever.
For sure.
But, okay, yeah, as a premise, sure, the government would probably have an idea of, where to locate supers and stuff like that.
So then it's kind of
I agree.
It seems like they'd all be, and then this kind of makes me go back into my, just, into the real world. It's you can pretty much blackmail most people,
Yes, that's absolutely.
Because in the comics, they blackmail a little bit, but sometimes they also just kill them. Because in the comics, I don't think this will spoil something that's going to happen in the future of the show, but in the comics, and this happens in the first one, you or me could take Compound V and just have superpowers for a little bit.
Yeah, hell yeah, we could
be real strong and kill guys as if it's like a super steroid or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the closest analog, I guess, is what Lex Luthor takes in what is it, All-Star Superman, where he just I synthesized some stuff, I'm going to use it to be Superman for a day or whatever.
You're welcome, Earth.
But yeah, a lot of the times they solve their problems. It's just we got to kill those guys. All right, let's go get them. Drink your super juice, eat your spinach, and we're going to go beat them all up in the streets. But yeah, with this, they're mostly blackmail. They're kind of like spies, which is even more why, I'm well, why would you have Huey be part of this? He seems like he's really going to screw this up.
Because there's only you, right? At the beginning, it's just Butcher. So,
right.
You found a guy who's in deep, and it's you know what? Come on, right? What other choices do you have?
Oh, yeah, no, I mean, I guess I'm thinking, honestly, more in the comics than in the show. Fair. Is because in the show, not only does he have, it's clear that Billy is on his own, but also Huey has access that other people wouldn't be able to have at that moment because he has to go in and sign that agreement. So it's well, you can put the bug in a way that really only you can.
All right, yeah, that makes sense.
In the books, it's oh, fuck, you're going to just hire some random guy who doesn't have any real skills, who just kind of wants revenge for your hit squad?
Yes.
I guess they are. And you know what? It goes great. Yeah. I don't know why I assumed Lamplighter was dead. I just assumed he was dead. I'm pretty sure in the books he is dead.
That's a fair assumption, honestly. I don't know.
Because he does go crazy and burn Mallory's grandchildren, right? That's the specific thing that we know he did. Yeah. But
I don't know why I thought he was dead either.
I doubt we'll see him.
I doubt so. I mean, unless, I can't imagine why they would put, some kind of interesting story arc, maybe? I don't know.
Well, there's something that they do with him in the show in the book that I think they could maybe do, except for the way.
Spoil it?
I don't know, maybe. Hold on.
Okay.
Move my microphone a second time. Okay. In the comics, he did all the things he did. He killed Mallory, or he killed Mallory's kids, I think. Some version of that. And the boys, so he is killed then. He is dead, but he's not dead. Because if you do Compound V, you just don't die. He's like a zombie pretty much. And the boys get him. They're they call a truce with Homelander. And they're all right, we'll stop killing you if you guys stop killing our guys, and stop misbehaving, and then we'll be fine. And Homelander's all right, whatever. And Billy's also, we want Lamplighter. And then they just take him, and I think it's assumed that he's tortured forever. So,
oh god,
but
that's dark.
In the show, Mallory's not around. She's oh, not sorry. I keep saying Mallory?
Do you mean Sitwell, right?
No, I mean sorry. Is it Mallory? Yes.
No, you're right.
I mean Mallory.
Yeah.
In the show, she is not... Well, I guess she's around, but she shows up in one episode and she's I'll never talk to you guys again. And based off of what her character's here, I kind of believe her. So I don't think we'll do that plot line. I doubt that will happen.
Okay.
Do you want another spoiler for the book that's the biggest spoiler? Someone asked this question. You know what? Let's do a couple more nitpicks. At one point...
Okay, sure.
At one point, what's his name? A-Train is able to outrun Starlight's
shockwave.
No, Starlight's like beams, like kind of like he goes into like
it travels
speed
the speed
mode.
of light.
Yeah, and we learn when he's fighting he's doing a shockwave race, he can run at about 1,000 miles an hour, something like that, which is fast but not that fast.
Yeah, it's not the speed of light. It's pretty
good. So that's a pretty funny one.
Get your shit right, movie.
That's always I hate speedsters in comics. Like I love them, but there's never any consistency besides like in terms of like how fast any of them are. So like when it's like he can run a race, but he's not like he can kind of run it, but it's still up in the air because he can only run 1,000 miles an hour. So like here's the artificial ceiling on his speed. But then like when he's in a fight, it'd be more interesting if he could slow down time. And then it's like, well, where the fuck was it then? And I guess the way
how does that work? Yeah,
the way you could explain it, and this one was from Max. Why? Maybe it's that if you take like a shitload of Compound V, you like approach godhood for a second before your heart gives out and you die. So maybe that's what it was, because he was clearly like real tweaked out. Although it's hard to say whether he's taken an abnormal amount that day or his being super like drugged up is just a result of taking a normal amount of it every day. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like, do you take enough Compound V that like, oh, you're good, but if you take a lot of it, you're crazy. Like, does Homelander doesn't take it as far as we know, right?
No,
like,
I don't think so.
Took it? Would he go crazy?
He's I don't know. His character is I don't think he would. I mean, I think if you have it in moderation, I think you'd be fine. Kind of like with, I don't know, because it's not really a steroid. It is like almost like super heroin, or like something like that.
Not super heroin.
Yeah, exactly. And it's addictive in a way that I don't know too much about steroids, but I don't know if they're like addictive. Are they addictive?
I mean, it's the results are
right.
What is addicting, right? Like, I don't think it itself is, but you're like, oh my God, I can do all these things. I think that's what it is.
But this like definitely gets you high, because that's what Pop Claw's all about when she takes it, kind of. So yeah, I'm not sure. But I doubt Homelander would take it because he does seem to have a pretty strong amount of like self-control.
He's addicted to other shit, man.
Yeah, I was gonna say he's he's got his vices, but they're not. He doesn't drink. Also, I wonder if he's like a kind of the same way Superman can't get drunk. Kind of like if there's characters that it wouldn't even affect in that way. But it probably would, because.
Do we know why he's like so special? Like why he has like the Superman powers and everyone else just has a smattering of powers?
No, because then it's kind of like, then you come up against the question of like, I don't think this is ever answered in the show, does Vought program specific powers into you, or does it give it to you like X-Men and kind of wait to see what you get?
Right. It's like, oh, let's find out. Yeah.
Because then you could kind of go like, well, maybe they did just build this super baby. They found like this, they picked this one. Because Homelander, like Annie, and I guess she's like the only one we see, but it seems like most of them, and I guess all the other ones that are pageant kids, are not raised by the government, right? Like they're just
in their homes, yeah.
But Homelander is, or was, kind of.
Yeah, he was like the only one, and I think they realized this was a mistake. How could we have done this? Blah 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 blah.
Exactly.
Et cetera.
All right, let's talk about that one scene. What the best scene in the show?
Okay. Which?
I don't know. Now I'm wondering, what do you think the best scene in the show is? There's one individual scene that I think, besides the one where he uses the baby as a gun, that kind of comes out as the best show. I mean, I think the scene where Homelander gives the speech at Believe is terrific. But there's a different one that I think is probably
the airplane one.
Yeah, the airplane scene.
Yeah.
So you want to guess what that is in the comics?
Oh my God.
And like,
oh my God,
it's pretty similar, but there's something specific about how that scene goes differently in the comics.
Is it like, wait, are they on a, is it like 9/11?
It's 9/11 in the
comics?
Yep.
God damn it.
Supers failed to stop 9/11.
Why would they do that?
Oh, it's great. No, it's awesome.
Fuck.
Because it's the same thing, except it's more, like it's, I guess, well, it's interesting because I'm pretty sure in the show, no one knows they did it. I think in the comics, they know they did it. Like, it's like everyone knows that the supers failed to stop it, because it happens, like, they failed to stop it in, like, New York City.
Right. So like, it's like, oh.
The plane falls on the Brooklyn Bridge or something. So, like, it plays out very differently. Also, one of their super friends dies.
Okay.
The original, there's a character before A-Train, I forget what his name is, that's the actual Flash of that team, who dies in that and is replaced by A-Train. But yeah, it's 9/11 in the comics. It's so edgy, man. They're not going to play by your system.
I mean, I get it. I get why that is, but like, oh god, it made me uncomfortable in the show by itself. Like, I can't even imagine.
Oh yeah,
putting that down there. Like, hey, everyone, deal with this, because they could have done it right. A flashback. They could have. I mean, I guess
it wouldn't have worked as a flashback. No, yeah, that's the big difference. This had to happen today. Where in the show, it's something that happened in the past, or in the books, it's something that happened in the past.
Oh, that sucks, man. Oh
yeah,
god,
man. But I think I find that it's almost like it's that level of like tastelessness where I'm more like impressed by how crazy of an idea that is. You know, just like someone pitched that in a room and everyone else went, yeah, let's do that. I'm like, oh man, you guys, that's wild. But
someone's just like, yeah, let's push it.
It seems like one of those shows. I mean, there's some stuff in the books that's like very tasteless and messed up that I think that almost seems tame. And it's not necessarily tame because it's also like, it's I enjoy a good alternate history of stuff, kind of like what if the comedian killed JFK in Watchmen? You know what I mean?
Right.
So I think it helps for the realistic world building, kind of.
Okay.
Or less of the like what if superheroes were real versus like what if we had superheroes here. Because you know
what would that mean for society and all that stuff? Have
you ever read the comic book where Spider-Man doesn't stop 9/11?
No.
Oh boy, it's a trip. In the middle of a comic book story, just a normal one, the comic book is like, oh wait, a special report. It's 9/11, and then Spider-Man is in New York as 9/11 is happening, and
oh god,
yeah, no, it's pretty stupid. Like in theory, it's kind of nice because it's like, I mean, it just doesn't work. It 100% doesn't work because it's like, well, Spider-Man's already probably stopped 9/11s. Like, this would be a big deal to Spider-Man, but it wouldn't be the big deal to the New York that, you know, has regularly had to deal with Magneto stealing all the bridges and stuff, you know? Like, it's pretty... It just doesn't, like, it doesn't track. And, like, it's got all that kind of post 9/11, you know, like, oh, we will rebuild and all of that stuff. But it comes real hollow when Dr. Doom is there also being sad about 9/11. Because,
yeah, right, like that doesn't make sense.
But that's what it is. There's one panel specifically that's really where this falls apart, where it's the Juggernaut, Kingpin, Magneto, and Dr. Doom, and they're all standing around. I think Magneto is helping a little bit, like raising beams. And the line on that panel is like, and even our greatest enemies can come together and help us. And it's like, motherfucking Doom's killed a whole people, like countries of people. He doesn't, this is not even this is a Tuesday to him or whatever. Like, it doesn't matter. Juggernaut in the comics took down the World Trade Center a couple years ago. Like in 1998, I want to say Juggernaut, like, so like, it's just stupid. And I think
it's like
it was
unabashedly fake.
Like Doom doesn't cry at all. He wouldn't cry. And I'm pretty sure it was retconned so that's a Doombot. That doesn't know he's a Doombot, because every so often there's one of those. So
that's funny.
It's
so
I
like
dumb.
that.
Like, I wouldn't mind Kingpin. Maybe Kingpin just shows up and is like, Spider-Man, what happened today is terrible. You know, truce for a day or whatever. But not the Juggernaut.
Not Doom.
Yeah. Oh God. So yeah, you can do worse. But the plane scene is great. I think that just in The Boys, it's so good. And that's where Homelander says, like, Queen Maeve's like, we'll pick up the plane. He's like, how? What am I going to stand on? Air?
I love that so much.
And then that makes me go like, well, what are they doing then? How do they fly? I always wondered how flying works in these, you know?
It's such a great point. I think there's some irreverence in the show that are like my favorite parts.
Yeah.
That I really, really enjoy.
I think that scene is pretty great. It's like, it's just the right amount of like, it's so fun for a second because he's saving everybody and the music's heroic and everyone's cheering, and because it's like a cartoon world, but also it's not. They all cheer when their plane terrorist crisis is avoided. Like, I think it's kind of almost like how in Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man, everyone's just like watching Spider-Man fight Electro and like cheering on the sidelines, like, guys, run. But in this, they're all like, yay, Homelander saved us. And they're not all still having panic attacks. But then he goes into the cabin and he messes it up. And everyone in the scene is like mortified by it except for Homelander, who's just like, whoops, all right, I'll try this again another
guys.
time. Seems like he'd get caught. I don't think they'd be able to hide this.
Yeah, it's fair.
I think people would call people, send
plane,
text
though?
messages, send Instagrams. I don't know. Do you not have service?
Black box would be the thing, right? That's how he'd get caught, is if they found the plane's black box. Unless, like, Homelander destroys it or whatever.
I guess, like, you would say the government... God, no, you know what? Homelander wouldn't. The Deep would. Because doesn't he find the wreckage of the plane and is like...
Oh, yeah.
There was nothing happened here, guys. Homelander he has an alibi, so it wasn't even him. But
stop being weird.
Yeah. But can people, like, would you not have service out there in the middle of the ocean? I guess.
I don't think so.
I just feel like all the cell phones, everyone would be calling people.
People would try.
Yeah,
for sure.
You'd have to use go in-flight Wi-Fi. So
I
then,
was
yeah,
gonna
word
say,
would never get out.
If someone already has the Wi-Fi, they might stream it to the internet. Look, in terms of would this happen, 2019 is the most likely year for it to happen.
Yeah.
Like, we're definitely in a high likeliness, whatever.
Wait, high likeliness of what? Having superheroes?
Oh, no, like Homelander getting caught.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. He also, there's a point where it seems like Queen Maeve is going to tell her ex-girlfriend, and...
Yeah, she almost does.
So close.
Almost does.
So,
doesn't pull through.
Not frustrating necessarily, but, like, as a viewer, I'm like, come on, just tell her, please. She knows she's a good person. That's how we can expose him.
Off. Yeah.
I kind of figured Homelander would kill Maeve, but he hasn't yet. He's definitely going to have to at some point, right?
Yeah, for sure. That is 100% going to happen.
How many? Do we only see one super on super fight?
Yeah, only the A-Train Starlight one.
Who do you think is if Homelander's the most powerful, who do you think's the second most powerful?
Is it Maeve?
Probably, like, right? She can fly.
She's Wonder Woman, and that's how that tracks usually.
And then I guess I don't know. I could be convinced that Starlight's more powerful than Maeve. Although, I mean, I guess A-Train can beat her, so probably not. A-Train's pretty good.
Right.
He can explode you by accident.
Oh my god.
It's pretty good.
He'll just run through you like a train.
Yeah.
Whoops, everybody.
I guess Black Noir is the worst one.
Is it because he's Batman? Is that why?
Well, yeah, I guess the least, like, if they all fought, he'd probably die first. Homelander would have the least problem killing him. Although maybe Translucent, because again, pennies.
Yeah. Man, you're really on this like pennies thing, huh?
And the Deep is like right in the middle. Because like
the Deep is.
Well, like,
do we know the folks out of the Deep's powers? Because like Aquaman outside of water is like powerful, right? Because he's so dense and whatever. Is that true for the Deep? I don't know.
It shouldn't be, right? Because he lived on land. The only reason Aquaman's strong is he lives at the bottom of the ocean, so his bones are denser and stuff. So yeah, I don't think the Deep would be. And also, Maeve isn't Wonder Woman, right? Like she is, but she grew up in the world as well.
That's true. She didn't grow up in Themyscira.
What do people think she is? You know? It's like the rest of them are like, I'm Homelander. I'm from America. I'm going to wear a cape. And she's like, I'm going to dress like a Greek god. I don't sound like one. I don't look like one. I'm from Kansas or whatever. Like, I bet.
Yeah, right.
Is she a queen? Probably not. Where did she get that?
It might have just been a marketing thing where it's like, oh, this is effective if we do our whatever. Yeah. Like, that's what I boiled all these shows' decisions down to, which I actually don't necessarily think is a bad thing because it's kind of interesting.
To absolutely.
Be like, yeah.
I think that's super interesting. This idea.
And super interesting.
Super interesting. And it's good because you can go like, well, I mean, I guess if there were superheroes and they could, like, if you want to make a super world filled with superheroes that are all like the Batman and the Superman of this world, the best way to do that is have a company come up with them because that's how we did it in real life, you know?
Yeah.
With some guys behind a desk say like, what if there was a guy with a big cape, or not cape, a big shield that looked like the flag?
I'm like, oh, what if that?
What if? That would be fun. We should copyright this.
Oh, what if? Yeah, that's an idea. We'll take a bunch of things that already exist and then change them and then name it What If. It's $1 million idea, Nando.
That's right. I think one of them can be zombies. One of them is what if they're zombies.
What if zombies? I like that.
I'm not sure what Civil War is, but let's do one if Civil War went longer. We'll have to figure out what a civil war is, and then one if a different person got the shield instead of the main one. That's a good place to start.
I like that too.
What if Black Panther was Guardians of the Galaxy?
$1 million ideas.
You know that is one of the real ones.
Oh, is it really?
What if T'Challa got picked up by the Guardians and he was Star-Lord? Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that's the only one I think we've seen a still of besides the one that's the Peggy Carter Captain America one.
I think it's pretty sick.
I think it's great. All right, DJ. So The Boys. What do you think's gonna happen next season? Before we get into it.
Oh, so like the big
the
thing at the end of the season, right? We alluded to this. Homelander has a kid.
Yep.
Because he raped a woman and had the baby, but we thought that the woman was dead. It's Butcher's wife.
Yes.
I can't believe they ended the season with that. Just from like my selfish perspective of tell me what happens.
And I'm like not confused about this, but not positive. He did rape her, right?
I believe so.
How do we know that?
Do you think it was consensual?
It could have been. Yeah, why not?
I didn't even consider that.
Like, what if she was just cheating on her husband with Homelander for a while? She got pregnant.
Is that why she was so nervous?
Was disappeared. Oh. Yeah. Like after
fair enough.
At the finale, I'm not even sure she was like not. We just don't have very much information about that. I'm trying to remember if there's any I'm trying to remember if there's just any like confirmation about that specific part of the story, because she's definitely not dead. We know that.
I guess there isn't any confirmation. I just assumed. My bad.
No,
well, it's because Homelander's a dick, right? Like you'd be like, oh, that's right up his fucking alley.
Oh, sure. I mean, that's and I mean the rest of the supers wouldn't not do that, right? Like that's how we're introduced to the Deep. So but I don't. Yeah, I'm wondering if that's how that goes. Also, I'm pretty sure in the books they did kill her. I think that is super different than in the show. Like,
okay,
I'm pretty sure she is dead. So that's interesting. That there were a lot of things like that where something would come up and you'd be like, whoa, that isn't even close. This, and like in a way that's like, well, this has diverged 100%. So like the show can still do some things that were in the books, but there's others that they just can't do anymore. Like, things like this whole thing with the wife, completely new ground.
I guess that's good though, right?
Yeah, it's great. I hate adaptations like where they have to force everything kind of in as kind of like, I mean, if what they did was stupid and I was like, well, this isn't as good as the book, but it's as good, if not better than the book. So it's like, yeah, don't be strung by all the dumb parts of the book. You don't have to do those. Just do better versions of that. Use the same characters, and then that's pretty much it. I think I'm 90% sure we have confirmation that a character in the next season is going to be a supervillain. And like a supervillain, not a
That would
terrorist.
be interesting if the showrunners were like, oh, let's do, okay, so the first season was real subversive and different. Have the next season just be like your standard like hero versus villain thing. Or another way to take this is like, what if the superheroes who are dickheads and don't do anything actually had to go to work?
Yes, that's I'd say the most interesting thing you could do in this future of the show.
Like, oh, we're actually not good at this thing we're supposedly good at. Like, whoops.
Yeah, we're only good at foiling bank robberies because we can just stand there and then they all die. Like they are like Homelander is clever, kind of. He's able to put together this whole big plot, but yeah, like when it comes to using his powers, he accidentally downs this plane because he's like careless and not very good at them.
Yeah.
So I think that part of the show has held together pretty well with the comics, like with the idea that they're all kind of dumb, but more so with the being superheroes part. They're all kind of bad at it.
I do also love this thing where it's Homelander's solution to everything is laser beams.
Yeah.
That's like the only tool in his arsenal, and I fucking love that. I don't know why I love it, but I do.
Because laser beams are
it's
great.
a laziness thing. That's like, and if he ran to a person who was immune to laser beams, he'd be fucked.
That's why I'm telling you, gotta get that little baby cage.
That's it.
Homelander can't do anything. But like the laser beams are always like with Superman. Just use them more, dude. Flight is good and super strength is good. But if you're in a room with a supervillain, laser beams will probably fix it. Like it'll solve the problem 90% of the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, Superman is not nearly as hype on laser beams as Homelander, and it just shows why Homelander's so much better than Superman. The other character I want to show up, so I definitely want a supervillain that is just good at being a supervillain. I also want a character that's not a superhero to join the Seven. Like, that's not a Compound V guy. Because they have... Okay. We don't really know what's going on with Black Noir, but it seems like he's at least kind of Compound V.
Kind Compound V.
Feed, yeah. But there's another character that they alluded to a couple times in this called Tech Knight, who is the Iron Man of this universe. He's like Iron Man mixed with Batman, and he's got his own bucket of problems. But I'd like to see a character on the Seven who isn't caught up in any of this like Compound V Vought nonsense.
Right.
Because I would find that interesting. Because then it's like, well, how would Billy feel about him? You know, he's not a super.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
He's like a self-made man, but also he's terrible in his own special way that I'm sure the show will have a lot of fun with. But yeah, I think I'd want to see that. The other thing that I think the show could do, good super team, just like straight up heroes. Introduce one of those.
Oh, that would also be a good element to add.
I forget what they're called, but I'm pretty sure in the comics there's a Teen Titans group, like parody that is just like, we're kids and we're good and we fight crime in the end. They're not drug addicts. They don't kill people. And I think that would be fun to see, because we get a little bit of that with Starlight, and I guess Billy, she doesn't hate Billy necessarily, but they're not friends. But I think it'd be fun to have Billy have to deal with someone who, like a whole team of people who are just the opposite of everything he believes.
Yeah, it's fair, because everything's like kind of like black and white so far.
Super black and white.
Introduce some gray. Yeah, that would be that's good. I like to see that. I mean, like, I'm super optimistic on the show. I thought it was done so incredibly well.
Oh yeah,
I freaking loved it.
And you go back and look at the costumes and kind of the differences. I like, there's small things like Maeve's headband and stuff, but I think I really like what they did with Homelander. I think like most of the just production design of the show I thought was great. I would kill before you meet Ezekiel in whatever it's called, Believe Expo, like. Or before he's introduced, because he's introduced earlier in the series in the like sex club thing. But when your characters are just walking around before he's shown up, you can see in the background they are selling Stretch Armstrong dolls that are Ezekiel. I want one of those. I want to get my hands on one. I think that's terrific.
Pretty clutch.
Yeah, if they ever do an auction of all of the props from that show, I'm getting a Stretch Armstrong Ezekiel doll.
Yeah.
That's
funny.
All right, cool. DJ,
cool indeed.
Very cool.
Yes.
What you want to get to our classic segment?
I would love to get to our classic segment.
All right. DJ, have anything to recommend to the fine people?
I do have something to recommend. Can
I guess what it is?
Oh, yeah, please guess.
Rake in the Lake.
How did you know it was Rake in the Lake?
Because if I had a Nintendo right now, it would be Rake in the Lake for me too, but I don't. it's all I want to do is put that rake in that lake. It looks so fun.
I should bring my Switch to Comic-Con so you could play like 15 minutes of Untitled Goose Game.
So great.
Holy crap, man. It is such a blast. So if you haven't heard of it, just Google this. Donkey put up a video of this, but it's called Untitled Goose Game. Basically, it's a goose simulator where you play as a goose and you're an asshole. Unfortunately, it's only available on the Nintendo Switch. But it is so much fun. I did not think, because I never was really into those animal simulations. There's like Goat Simulator, and I think there's other ones. But Untitled Goose Game is so much fun. The art is cute. The music is so good. It's only $20. It was on sale for $15, so
nice.
I was like, snatching this up. And it's a great like pick up, put down game. It's just like a nice decompress, like, hard day at work. I'm just gonna be a dick to these villagers. Nana was saying Rake in the Lake because that's one of you have a little to-do list, and then you perform those tasks, and that's how you go through the game. And one of them is to just put a rake in the lake, and it's so good. Honestly, Nando's right. If you have a Nintendo Switch right now, you have to get Untitled Goose Game. It's too much fun. It's so good.
But I believe it is going to be on the whatchamacallit, on PC at some point.
I think on Steam it says like late 2020, but maybe it'll be done earlier.
I hope so.
I wonder if Nintendo had like an exclusivity thing for a year. I don't know if that's true. I'm just guessing.
I bet that's got to be it. And if they did, they're geniuses. Because
right,
honestly, I
that's
like
so
Super
smart.
Smash Brothers. I like other stuff, but nothing has made me closer to actually getting a Switch than this stupid game.
It's so good.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll bring my Switch to Comic-Con. Maybe I will bring my Switch.
We'll definitely lose it or break it or something. It's hard enough walking through the show floor with anything in your hands.
That's true. It's an excuse for you to... We'll see each other. Next time I see you, that's not Comic-Con. We'll rake in the lake, man. I'm telling you.
Rake in the lake for a little bit. Yeah, so fun.
So that, Untitled Goose Game for the Nintendo Switch. That is my recommendation.
Nice.
Yeah, it's fucking great.
I'll rec a couple things. I watched some of a show some people recommended to me. It's called Unraveled. You know what I'm talking about?
Is that video game?
Yes.
With the little yarn creature?
No. That is Unraveled. What's the thing I'm talking about? The show with the
there
girl
might be a
from
show
Alita
called
Battle
Unraveled,
Angel.
but there's definitely a show about Yarny. Remember Yarny, everybody?
I do remember Yarny. Those guys were so excited about their little yarn guy.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh my God. Yeah, it's not that. What the
It
heck's
is called Unravel.
It's Amazon. What's the name of the girl that does Alita Battle Angel? Alita. I don't know.
Oh
I'll figure
man,
this
there
out.
is an
Rose
Unraveled
something.
TV show. It's
Really?
Investigation Discovery digs deep into the psychological forces that drive a person to commit homicide. Is that what?
That's it. You know me. I love my real true crime. Undone is what it's called. Okay, cool.
Undone. Okay.
Undone. So it's a show about. It's so hard to explain, and it's really not worth explaining. But it's good. Definitely watch it. It's on Amazon Prime. I don't want to give away the game, but it's fun. And
All right.
it's got what's her name in it? Alita Battle Angel. And it makes
she good?
She's great. And it makes me go like, wow, I didn't like Alita Battle Angel very much. And it kind of made me it definitely didn't make me go like, oh, she can't act or anything. But I wasn't like, oh man, I want to see her in more stuff now. But after this, I want to see her in more stuff now. She's quite good.
Nice.
And in a similar vein, I also watched because I'm about halfway through Unraveled, but then we took a detour for some reason. Not for some reason. I think because of the Emmys, I guess, to watch Fleabag. So me and Emily watched
Fleabag,
both
a
seasons
show I
of
know nothing
Fleabag.
about, but heard a lot about.
It's fun. You know what? I'd seen clips and I was not sold. But I very much enjoyed it. I think it's like The Boys, kind of. It's crude, although it's less crude because there's certain things that happen in The Boys, and I'm like, that's kind of for shock value, you know. But with this, it's a lot more true to life. Kind of feels like a play. But basically, the story of Fleabag is it's kind of like what's that movie? Remember that movie that we all loved for a week and then forgot existed with the girl who does stand up comedy but steals everybody's jokes or whatever? What's her name? Amy Schumer. Remember that movie? I want to say it's called Trash Bag, but that's not it. What's the movie she made where she was a big old mess? Trainwreck, yes. This is kind of like that, where this girl is just, and by girl I mean woman, but this woman is like a big ol' mess. But it's obviously there's more to it than that. But again, don't want to completely give away what's going on. Because it's a comedy, but it's also super dramatic. But yeah, it's well acted. It's very well written. Phoebe Waller-Bridge, who's the person that I believe wrote it, and like it's kind of her thing. People will probably definitely not remember her from Solo, a movie that feels like it came out 20 years ago. She was that movie's like loudmouth sarcastic robot, because they all need to have a loudmouth sarcastic robot. And she was in that. But yeah, great show. Those are my two Rex. I know there's another one, but I can't remember what it is, so I'll forget about it for now. I mean, it's Joker, but don't, it's Joker's. We'll talk about that next week.
Woohoo!
I feel like I watched a movie this week too that I was like, I've been waiting to watch. What the heck was it? I don't know. Fleabag kind of feels like a movie. Maybe it was that. But yeah, next week we're doing Joker. The dance is over, and
we're here.
I don't want to spoil it, DJ. So much dancing in this movie. It's mostly dancing. Yeah.
Gonna have so many yo-hos.
Oh my God. It's like, it's great, the amount of dancing to this movie. Some of the songs. Oh, there's a song that he dances to that me and the guy next to me, who we did not know each other, both looked at each other and went, whoa. So it's pretty funny.
Nice.
Yeah, if you've seen the show, if you've seen the movie, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, next week, Joker. Yeah, until next week, I'm at Nando V Movies on Twitter.
I'm at Zippy by Day.
Goodbye, everybody. Goodbye.
Woo.